So I'd like to share some thoughts today. It's December 10th. It's actually my birthday. So happy birthday to me. um, Traditionally, for whatever reason, my birthdays have been pretty intense the last few years in ways that I don't think that I can adequately explain. But um, today's been a happy day. I've been overwhelmed with a lot of gratitude. But I'd like to make a video. It's actually is 4 p.m. It's in the afternoon, and that's kind of unusual um, as far as the time. I'm usually squeezing in the last bit of time I have before I rejoin my family for dinner to write some more. And I'm rounding out this book that I've been working on for a long time about honesty, and I'm pretty excited. This morning was wonderful to kind of turn the page on, I guess, away from a rather difficult string of weeks, working out some difficult things, some things that have been very difficult to put into words, and some extensive reworking of the material there. But I've reviewed up to page 30 today, and there was a little bit of polishing to do, but I'm quite happy with how it has turned out so far. And we'll see how it goes as I get through the rest of the 300 pages, roughly, that I have written. And my goal is to get that out by the end of the year, but who knows, because my actual goal is to get it out by October 4th, and that didn't happen. So I'll just keep doing the best that I can. I want to share a little bit of my thoughts and feelings that have sort of flowed over the dam, so to speak, as I've tried to get back into writing this afternoon, and just found myself drawing further and further afield of those thoughts. I have to rework a particular section right now, and I just struggled to stop thinking and feeling about a certain set of things, and I figured I would share those thoughts with you as a way to sort of get through this, and I know that it might be helpful to some people. If you've ever worked physically, sledgehammered something or cut down a tree with an axe or torn off the shingles on a roof, and I'm just thinking of examples of this sort of thing in my life, torn out some old plumbing, whatever the case might be, when you just have this consuming task before you, it's not infrequent that you have to rest in the middle of the task. And I think this lends itself quite well to physical situations where your muscles just need time to recover. Those red blood cells have to get the oxygen back into your muscles. And so you're working as hard as you can while also not working at all because that's what it requires. You need a break. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like that, and I'm sure there are many other situations than those that I've enumerated. But we have one of those situations in the Book of Ether, in the Book of Mormon, where there's this tremendous sword fight going on. And we could read different segments of this, but if you're familiar with the story, you get the point pretty quickly. This is from Ether 15. It says, "It came to pass that they fought for the space of 3 hours, and they fainted with the loss of blood." Sword fighting is a physically demanding mode of battle, and you do lose blood. It's not a quick death. It's a gruesome thing. It's terrible. And so much of life is like this, where you just really have to put it all into whatever you're doing. And it consumes you, and you need time to recover. And that time to recover is a part of the process. Later in that same chapter, we read little snippets like the following. So Shiz and Coriantumr were these two fellows that were fighting each other, and it says, "It came to pass that when Coriantumr had leaned upon his sword," sorry, I should have started in the verse prior. "Wherefore he did pursue them, and on the morrow he did overtake them. And they fought again with the sword. And it came to pass that when they had all fallen by the sword, save it were Coriantumr and Shiz, behold, Shiz had fainted with the loss of blood. And it came to pass that when Coriantumr had leaned upon his sword, that he rested a little, he smote off the head of Shiz. And it came to pass that after he had smitten off the head of Shiz, that Shiz raised up on his hands and fell. And after that he had struggled for breath, he died. And it came to pass that Coriantumr fell to the earth and became as if he had no life. And so you see this cyclic process of having these spurts of energy and then being completely worn down and having to recover. And like I said, this pattern occurs in life with surprising frequency. But if you zoom out a bit, you might see that this pattern can also accurately describe life as its own arc. Life, and the entirety of life, fits this pattern if you live your life well. My favorite example of this is from Isaiah 53, such an important chapter. I'm going to read verse 12 from the Gileadi translation. I will assign him an inheritance among the great, and he shall divide the spoil with the mighty, because he poured out his soul unto death, and was numbered with criminals. He bore the sins of many, and made intercession for the transgressors. The segment that I want to zoom in on for the purposes of this video is, because he poured out his soul unto death. What would it be like to pour out your soul unto death? We read this example of Shiz and Coriantumr, which, serious topic aside, I had a roommate that would always say that as a kind of an epithet. Instead of cursing, he'd say Shiz and Coriantumr, or he'd say holy shiz. Anyway, so what does it mean to pour out your soul unto death? We can imagine maybe more easily, more readily, we can imagine a sword fight where you have to rest on your sword, or you've lost so much blood that you just have to lay on the ground for a while, and then eventually you can get up again. I don't know if you've ever fainted. It's happened to me a few times actually in life, and it's unpleasant. You sort of lose control and you go down. You go down for the count, and even if it's just for a brief second. So what would it be like to apply that same pattern to life, or to experience that same pattern in life? What is it like to pour out your soul unto death? Here's another one from Isaiah 58. This is verse 10. Sorry, Isaiah 58. That's not the same as Isaiah 53. Verse 10. And this is from the World English Bible translation. It says, if you pour out your soul to the hungry and satisfy the afflicted soul, then your light will rise in darkness, and your obscurity will be as the noonday. So when you work to the point of fainting, or at least to the point where you need to rest, have you ever done physical task? I remember many times using, say, a post hole digger manually and getting to the point where I could not lift my arms anymore. And you just sort of have to come back the next day. There's nothing you can do to keep moving your arms. So what is it like to pour out your soul to that extent? And why would it be necessary or helpful to pour out your soul to the hungry? Don't they need food? Well, blessed are the hungry, because they will be fed. And sometimes that's not just physical food, it's spiritual food. Pouring out your soul for the benefit of the world, for whatever people might need. It goes far deeper than just loaves and fishes, often. But it includes that too. What does it look like? Have you ever pushed so hard into life that you fainted? I have. I know that that's what the Lord wants from us. Not to operate beyond our strength. Not to run faster than we have strength, but to run as fast as we truly can. We're going to have this cycle where we have to rest. If you get to bedtime and you're not tired, you haven't worked hard enough during the day. There are proverbs galore that talk about this, how one of the ingredients of good sleep is working hard. It's also being honest and being intentional. But another important piece of this is understanding that when you pour out your whole soul, it activates the response of God. When you do this in a physical way, where do you get energy from? Why does your energy come back, or where does it come from? Well, it comes from your body. Our bodies are designed to replenish that energy. You come back to work the next day refreshed. Or maybe you need a weekend because it's been a brutal week, and hopefully you come back and you're refreshed. But you see, when you do this at the level of your whole soul, it comes from God. He says, love others as I have loved you. Love is a consummate act of doing everything you can with all your heart, might, mind, and strength for the benefit of others. Not just the people that you have an obligation to, certainly not just the people you'll get something back from, including good feelings, but also your enemies, also people who won't notice it, also people who could never pay you back. When you pour out your whole soul, it activates something from heaven. And God himself will see to it that you're replenished and renewed. He makes that promise in the Doctrine and Covenants. Those who are faithful in obtaining the priesthood, they magnify their calling. They pour out to others everything that God has given them. He will renew them. He will renew them. And it's a true promise. And as we learn what the Lord would do in our place, and as we do what the Lord would do in our place, and think and feel how he would if he were in our place, we will pour out our whole soul, and he will replenish it. And it's a cycle. You can't hold back and expect that promise to be fulfilled. You can't be selective in when you do it and for whom, and have that promise fulfilled. You really do have to love everyone. You have to do it all the time. But the better way of saying that is we get to. What a wonderful blessing it is to be given the opportunity by the Lord to stand in his place to other people, to do what he would do if he were there. It's not something we deserve, not by a long shot, but he gives us the opportunity to feel all the joy for being there and doing that. Even though it doesn't come from us, he gives us the opportunity for it to come through us. It comes from him, and that's why it's good. We stand in the way by getting out of the way, by emptying ourselves so that he can fill us with what is much better than what we are and who we are. I'd like to read just a few more scriptures. This is from Mormon 3:12, and Mormon, he was a general, and he commanded a set of people that were unfortunately very wicked. But he said, I had loved them according to the love of God which was in me, with all my heart, and my soul had been poured out. That's just an excerpt. That's part of the verse. But this is the idea. God gives us love by showing us who and how he is. And we give love by being that way to others. And we pour out our whole soul for their benefit, all the time. And it's consuming. It's consuming love. It will consume you. But not only is it still the best way to use it, but God gives us this tremendous promise that he will replenish us. And what comes is always greater than what we've given, because it's through loving others, as we have seen God love us, that we come to be shown even greater love. And it's a cycle. There's a psalm where God's love is described as, his mercy is described as being renewed morning by morning. And it is. He's so quick to forgive. He's so patient with our weakness. He's so wonderful that as you get to know him, it becomes very difficult to put these ideas into words, because it's so much greater than what we see here on earth. But he expects us to respond to that by being the same with others, by being long-suffering with them, by forgiving again and again and again. As people repent and they try again, to be right there to give them another chance. To pour out our souls so that he can show us even more of how he is. And we can get back up off the ground and do it again. I had thought of taking this in another direction at this point, but I don't think I'm going to do that. This life is the time for us to prepare to meet God. We're given this space to learn as much as we can about him and to show others as much as we can about him. And the best way to do that is through loving them, through showing them as much as we can about how God is as he's revealed himself to us to be, to pour out our whole soul for their benefit, the benefit of all. And as we do that, he will show us more of how he is. But if we stop short, if we give less than our whole souls, we draw a line in the sand and we say, Lord, this is how much I'd like to know you and no further. So we have to refrain from placing limits on him and to truly love everyone with the fullness of love that he has loved us with.